like back in their lands of origin, if you know what they were like, then it's no wonder that the founding culture of America was built on stolen land, was built on enslaved labor. It was built on a set of decorative ideological documents declaring all men created equal, while viewing only their own kindred as men, their only skin tone as men. Understand, this isn't hypocrisy, not in the ordinary sense. No, they're being completely consistent. They're being completely consistent with their ancestral culture and their ancestral thinking. Dehumanization is an unspoken but fully understood and fully accepted component of their framing of equality. See, they'll say all people are equal, but what they won't say, but what they believe, is that not all people are people. For them, this goes without saying. It goes without saying. So when you ask who is white in America, the honest answer is, who is white is whoever the system needs to be white at any given moment, in exchange, like I say, for enforcing it against those who are not. It's not a heritage, it's a job description, you understand? And the job is maintenance and enforcement of a hierarchical, predatory, exploitative, inhuman, oppressive, and ruthless social order. That's the job. And the upholding and the affirmation of and the advocacy for and the perpetuation of a backwards, primitive, simplistic, dishonest, shallow, immoral, immature, animalistic, satanic culture. That's the truth. So this is the background, this is the origin, this is the genealogy, the real DNA of American culture and the American system. Not your fake history, not your fairy tales and your fables, not your Johnny Appleseed, and not some ahistorical and unfactual whiteness. We're talking about a particular people coming from a particular region or from particular regions who have specific histories, who have specific lineages, cultural lineage, lineage of habits, lineage of ways of acting, ways of thinking, ways of operating in the world, that trace back consistently, trace back for millennia. Scavengers, hunters and gatherers, raiders and marauders, in the harsh wilderness of Germany, for example, what's now Germany, to the frigid Nordic lands in Scandinavia, to the barren, inhospitable rock of an island that's known now as the UK, the Gauls, the Franks, the French, the Anglo-Saxons, and so forth. Pagan, jinn-worshipping, constantly warring, constantly invading each other, pillaging each other, thieves and killers, tyrants and oppressors. That's the origin. Forever scrambling and fighting each other for dominance over resources in their own lands. Feudal lords and serfs. The very existence of America itself is the proof, all the proof that you need that this is the case. Europe was so vicious and so unlivable that the Europeans themselves fled to America. If it had been a fair and just and beautiful and enlightened and wonderful civilization, well, nobody would have had to run away from it. And this is the other thing that you have to understand, that the people who did run away from it, the people who ran away from it, did so because they wanted to be able to be themselves like the people that they were running away from. Do you understand me? They were tired of being robbed. They were tired of being oppressed. And they wanted to have a chance to be the ones doing the robbing. They wanted to have a chance to be the ones doing the oppressing. And that's why you have a country over there right now. That's why you have a country. And that's why the country is the way that it is. And that's why you are the way that you are. And like I say, whether you're classified as so-called white or you're classified as so-called black in that society, in that so-called civilization, or if you come from any sort of non-European, non-Anglo-Saxon origins, and whether you're rich and whether you're poor, whether you're upper class or lower class or working class, whether you're white collar or blue collar, whether you call yourself a conservative or you call yourself a liberal, whether you call yourself a traditionalist or you call yourself a progressive, whether you're on the right or whether you're on the left, I'm telling you, the psyche, the mentality, the frameworks, the paradigms, the way of understanding and the way of interacting and engaging, all of that, all of what I have just described regarding those Europeans, all of that is in you now. It's in you now because of all the mechanisms and all the institutions that I've been talking about. You've been Europeanized. You've been Anglo-Saxonized. You've been Germanized. That's that vat of acid that I said that you've been in, which you call the melting pot. But you, if you're a so-called minority in America, you didn't come from where they came from. You didn't live their ancestors' lives. You don't have their 10,000-year history. But you've been sucked into the riptide of that history, out of your own ancestral waters into the thick, polluted ocean of theirs. Now their pathologies are your pathologies. Their psyche is your psyche. Their mentality is your mentality. And the most distinctive thing about them is their absolutely unbreakable resistance to change and improvement. I mean, the complete imperviousness to development and to change, to me, is really striking and the most striking. Unparalleled stubbornness to resist civilizing. You don't change them, they change you into them. You understand me? Every single phase of their history is nothing but rebranding. Rebranding of the same culture. Structure of primal, permanent primitivity. But at the end of the day, you're all Westerners now. You're all Westerners now. And you are all carrying on the history of those Europeans, even if you didn't come from there. You're carrying on their culture now. Even though it's not your culture. It's not the culture that you come from originally. And now you're carrying on that same mindset, that same mentality. You have that same psyche. It doesn't matter if you're oppressed. It doesn't matter if you're oppressed over there. Remember what I said? The people who ran away from Europe to start that country to begin with, they were oppressed too. But they had the same mind as their oppressors. And it was actually that same mindset of their oppressors that made them run away in the first place. You understand? And this is what we see from you in the U.S. now. This is what we see from you. You're complaining about what? You're complaining about your material conditions, about your cost of living, about your wages, about your working conditions, and so forth, about access to resources. Now, I'm not saying that those aren't genuine issues. Those are genuine issues. But you're not interested in the underlying causes of those issues, the root causes. You just want to get the things that you want. You just want your material comfort secured. Now you have the mentality of a European scavenger from 10,000 years ago. Even if your particular ancestors came from Asia, or your ancestors came from Africa or South America. Because that culture and that system obliterates everything but itself, I'm telling you.